Hello and welcome back to our program. And today for our first guest we have Claire Besley, who's an emotional health expert and talking to us about emotional health today. And so Claire, why do you think that there's an epidemic of anxiety and depression in Australia?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Obviously it's rampant, we all know about it, we all either had it or we know someone else who's had it. The reason that I think the epidemic is as big as it is and why it's continuously growing and not reducing is because we're living in a society where we're actually taught that to be angry or to be sad or to be disappointed is unhealthy. And so what we do is when these emotions come up, instead of actually allowing them to process, we push them back down, we judge ourselves for having them, and we try not to feel them. And whenever we don't allow ourselves to feel our emotions, they actually build up inside of us and they can get to a point of being uncontrollable. So we can have a panic attack, as an example. So I think that the reason that this epidemic is growing and not reducing is because we are approaching it from a medical perspective of what can we do to reduce it by giving you a tablet, rather than going, how can we help you to efficiently process emotion so that it doesn't build up to the point where you're needing to go to hospital.
And so then what would be the difference between emotional health and mental health?
Yeah, there's a very big difference between mental health and emotional health. And I think in society today, we really are talking and focusing on mental health. Personally, I think if we shifted our focus from mental health to emotional health, we'd actually see a dramatic change in results. They would increase rapidly. Mental health is focused on our thoughts, our processes that we're having cognitively in our minds. Emotional health, when we focus on that, we're actually looking at what is the emotions that are building up in our physical bodies. How much emotion is repressed in our physical body. So when we focus on the body and the emotions in there and we actually learn to release them in a healthy way, the mind clears on its own. So the current approach to let's solve everything from the focus of the mind is treating us as if that's all we are, whereas if we approach healing and becoming well from a focus on emotional health, then the mind actually resolves itself and we kind of kill two birds with one stone. So there's a huge difference, and that focus must shift to one of emotional health if we want to have much better results and a healthier nation.
So what do you think we can do to help resolve that situation?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Look, it's actually incredibly simple. A lot of the work that I do is actually helping people on a daily basis to release the blocked emotions and beliefs that live in the body that cause illness. So the best thing that we can start to do, number one, as a society, is stop having a negative view of people that are having negative emotions. So when you know someone who's angry or someone who's sad, instead of telling them how you'll get over it, sit with them and say, I know you're feeling angry. How about I sit with you in that and allow you to feel that right through, rather than trying to get you to talk you out of it or tell someone why they shouldn't be angry. We teach them to actually embrace it. It's healthy, it's good, and let's feel it together. And once we have a society where we're constantly embracing every kind of emotion, shame, guilt, sadness, apathy, indifference, once we all learn to embrace each other's emotions, we'll start to process them in a much more healthy way, because there won't be the judgment stopping us from experiencing them, and we'll stop suppressing them because we'll realise that they're valuable.
And Claire, could you give us some examples about that, how this emotional health and the differences there is playing out?
Yeah. Look, I think, we've got this fantastic Are You OK movement, which I love. But my challenge with it is, if we learn to ask everyone, are you OK, what do we do when they say, no, I'm not? Typically then, we might get them to discuss it a little bit more, and they might say, I'm having suicidal thoughts. I don't really want to be here anymore. That's a pretty difficult thing for someone on the other side of that are you OK question to be able to cope with. And typically our response is, no, you're going to be okay, your life's amazing, I'll help you through it, everything's going to be all right. What I think needs to shift is we actually need to allow people to have these feelings and recognise that they're just emotions. So instead of immediately trying to talk somebody out of experiencing that emotion, maybe it's time for us to say, you know what, it's okay for you to feel like that. And how about I sit here with you and actually we go into those feelings, and how about I feel your grief with you? Because at the other side of feeling that grief is a release. And that person will then quite often shift out of that state and no longer have those thoughts, because the thoughts are just the response to the feelings. So I'd love to see the Are You OK movement extended a little bit to what do we do when they say that they're not okay, and how do we help them embrace what they're feeling, allow their body to process it and metabolise it, so their mind then recognises, actually, no, I don't want to die. This is something I do on a daily basis. I've done this with hundreds of clients now. I don't run away from their pain. I go into it with them and enable them to process it. And I don't believe this is just only something for therapists to do. I believe everybody has a role in this society to help everybody as much and as often as we can. So I think extending the "Are you okay?" to allowing emotion would be the best thing we could do together.
And in the Australian society, that'd be a great thing to incorporate to people to be aware of, that it's okay. It is okay.
Yeah.
And just relax a little bit about it.
That's right. And I think that the challenge is we can't deal with other people's emotions. It's scary to have someone you love or someone you know expressing these horrible, scary thoughts. But the reason that it's so difficult for us is because we're not comfortable with our own emotions. We suddenly feel scared ourselves when someone's saying that to us. And because we don't know how to process and accept our own, it makes it even harder for us to accept someone we love that's experiencing emotion. So the first thing we have to do is start to trust and allow ourselves without judgment to experience our emotions as they come up, and recognise that emotions are beautiful and we need all of them. You can't feel love and joy without having experienced grief and anger. We can't dismiss half of them and only want the others. Life is a balance. And so really understanding, okay, I'm angry today, this is not bad, this is good, let me feel into it and allow it to move. And then you might even move to courage or joy, and then you'll realise that anger was of great benefit to you. But while we're saying repress it, repress it, repress it, people end up going out and getting aggressive because it's built up inside. This is the movement that must take place if we want to rid ourselves of depression and anxiety. This must occur.
Well, that's wonderful, Claire. Great to have you on board today. And for more information on Claire and emotional health, then please go to our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And now we'll go to break, and after the break, welcome Nancy Beckor, who today is talking to us about other ways to look at psychedelics. Welcome back, and welcome back Nancy Beckor, who's here to talk to us today about psychedelics and mind expansion. Welcome, Nancy.
Hello. Well, what's this big interest in psychedelics? World Health Organization has said in 2017 that psychedelic medicine is the greatest, most powerful new field of medicine because people are getting well from things they were never meant to be able to get well with. Now, to speak about this, we need to just go over what I spoke about last time about meditation. Meditation is to calm, make inner peace. It is especially to connect with the inner self, the knowing self, and ultimately leading to your sense of purpose and resolving conflicts that you may have, because guess who knows best about you is you. So as we move on to what I call advanced meditation, is kind of what psychedelics are, except that most of the population accesses that by swallowing plant medicine or plant of herbs, basically herbs. And why do they do it? So mind expansion gets us to answer questions like, why does someone get over a terminal illness and somebody doesn't? Why is somebody luckier than somebody else? My background is physics and chemistry, and I will say to you, there are so many unexplained mysteries in the world. Where does the new technology come from? Where does great art come from? It's said that we only use 3% of our brain power. So people are wanting to access this. But, you know, ingesting herbs is not for everybody.
So, yeah, that's interesting. What about I've noticed in nature there are these unexplained things scientists don't have any explanation for, like water disappearing into nowhere.
Yes, I find it a very exciting time. Physics is almost being turned on its head. They actually say that the physics of consciousness, which is where mind expansion goes, are different laws. And that's where you can get mysterious things happening. You know, you follow coincidences. The kind of coincidences that can occur to a person who's tuned in, high-level meditation, the kind of things that can happen blow your mind, but you don't hear about it on the news. People don't know what to do with these extraordinary happenings. And so nothing is said about it, but the time has come for us to make use of all of our powers. So I'd like to tell you there is a much easier way, which is light technology, which I had spoken about in regards to meditation. But light technology is a much simpler event where you go have a 30-minute session and then you leave fully functional, and you begin to integrate what you experienced of maybe the colours, the patterns, and again the mind steps aside and we get genius. This is from whence genius comes. Let's stop doing the same things the same way all the time. So people have travelled everywhere around the world. People are travelling, I mean, soon there's going to be shuttles out in space. But what about the cosmic inner world, the great uncharted territory? It's extremely exciting because it will affect your actual life.
Well, thank you, Nancy. And for more information on Nancy and psychedelics and light technology and meditation, then please go to our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And we'll go to break now, and after the break we'll be back with Sondre Kalik, who'll be here to talk to us about another topic in health, wellbeing and lifestyle. Welcome back, and now we have Sondre Kalik with us again, our women's sales success coach. And next she's talking about authentic confidence.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that, Sondre.
Well,
what a wonderful topic.
I know, isn't it? Because I think there is a lot of people who actually think they're confident, but what they're doing is they're really coming from a place of, what does confidence look like? Like, what should it look like? What should it sound like? What should it feel like? And then they're really projecting that out, as opposed to having a confidence that comes from the internal well of, you know, the solidness of who you are and and the values that you take out into the world, right? When I started out in sales, of course, I was an actual introvert, believe it or not. I was extremely shy, and I actually found it extremely hard, like heart palpitatingly hard, to talk to people and to, you know, especially actually ask them for money in exchange for the product that I was selling. So it was a very interesting opportunity, because I was taught that confidence was something that was projected out. It was about a firm handshake and that smile that I had to have plastered on my face all of the time, you know, and it was a really hard habit to break, actually. But, you know, and shoulder pads, you know, in my suit, and having the confident walk. There was all about how I looked, how I was perceived. And so, but what happens, have you ever sort of felt that when somebody really projects their confidence onto you, what do?
Back off.
Back off, exactly. And so, you know, there's a lot of instances where people are having that encounter. They're like, what am I doing wrong? You know, like everything should be working, yet people aren't connecting with me, and they're not able to connect because there is this pushing away when we're actually trying to invite people in. And that really has to do with our energetic field, which is a lot of, you know, it's an easy concept to understand, and it's an easy thing to change in how you be. Okay, because simply it's like your energetic field goes about an arm's to an arm's length apart from, you know, your physical body. And so everything that we think and everything that we feel, our belief systems, our value systems, basically hold space and generate a certain feeling for other people when they encounter us. And so if we're pushing outwards, we're not actually able to invite inwards. And confidence really needs to be something that's fostered within us. It's part of our own ownership of the value of who we are, our ideas, our experience, our creative ways in which we do things, the unique perspective that we bring to whatever it is that we're doing is of value to other people. And yet we are often kind of pushing these ideas out beyond our energetic field. And so the idea is to allow enough space to be able to invite people in. And that does come down to your confidence. It comes down to your confidence in your value, in your ideas, in your experience, and finding a way in which you can gain confidence in those is all about the clarity. You know, if you have real clarity around what it is that you're speaking about, if you are able to take people through a succinct steps of steps, you know, a succinct system, then people are really able to go, oh, okay, so that's how it works. And therefore, the confidence in what you're talking about radiates the confidence.
Oh, and Sondre, that's so important for people to take into life, isn't it? For all of us to have that awareness.
Absolutely, because, you know, confidence, like we're talking about it in a sales sense, yes, we need that, but we need that for any idea it is that we're trying to get other people to participate with us in, because really, you know, we're always selling something. And we want to do that so that it's of service to other people and also serves us as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Sondre. And for more information about confidence and Sondre, then please go to our website healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Welcome back, and next we have Ursula Fay, who's a remedial massage therapist, and she's going to talk to us about the role of the body in releasing trauma. Hello, Ursula. How does this work?
Yeah, I guess massage therapy isn't really the first thing that springs to mind for treating trauma. We tend to go looking at the brain for answers. But the fact is, we actually store a great deal of trauma information in the body. And trauma, grief and stress is really toxic. So it builds up and sits in our cells. We can even store it in our DNA, and so our grandparents' trauma can still come through if it's never been dealt with. I guess that massage therapy isn't really the first thing we think of when we're dealing with trauma. We tend to go looking in the brain for answers. But the fact is, we actually store a whole lot of stuff in our bodies. So any unprocessed grief and trauma and stress stays in our body cells and even can get encoded into our DNA. And when we look at something like PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, most of what's happening with people, it's a very physiological response. So it's something they can't actually talk their way out of or strategize. So, you know, the scope of the talking therapy work can be a little bit limited. And it's actually the nervous system that's a very important part of what's going on when we've endured trauma, because that gets triggered, and that's often in charge when people are having some sort of an episode. Just to share a personal story, I remember a few years back I had a random panic attack after having done all my, you know, my talking work for years. So while being in the midst of that, I could understand completely everything that was happening to me, and it didn't help me at all. Like, it didn't help me break out of this panic attack because my brain sort of got locked out. You know, my nervous system was in charge and it just overrode everything else. So it was a bit like being a prisoner in my body, and I couldn't have any impact. You know, it wasn't letting me have any input to what was happening. So it was very interesting. It's the body itself, it's the nervous system we need to go and work with and have influence. The problem with why we even have panic attacks is, as I said before, all this information gets stored in our cells and in our DNA. And so it keeps getting referenced by the body and the nervous system. And you can have a couple of little similarities, subtle things like a quality of light or a smell or something, and it can suddenly transport you right back to when you had an accident or when something happened. And it just is enough to click the nervous system into action, and it just gates up, it shuts out the conscious mind and everything else, and it's in charge. So that's kind of what's happening when anxiety and panic attacks are happening.
What would be a tip, something for our viewers to take away today?
Bodywork's really becoming recognised as important in treating trauma in combination with talk therapy, and using any technique that employs myofascial release is really important. What the fascia is, it's not a term many people know, it's all about connective tissue. It surrounds absolutely everything in the body and connects us all the way through. It tightens when we get stressed and to protect an injury, but it's also part of our nervous system. And it's educatable and it learns, and that is one of the structures. The muscles and the fascia is where we store all of this trauma and stress information. So working directly with it is really super useful. Lots of different manual therapists are now working with the fascia and understanding that it's important. So you're going to have a lot of it's easy to find someone who can help. And the best thing of all is you get to have a nice relaxing massage. You don't have to do the hard work. Your body just releases itself and it's blissful. You can feel the extra space in your body, and the mental and emotional shifts can be quite profound for people too.
Thank you, Ursula. And for more information on Ursula and remedial massage, releasing trauma from the body, then please go to our website healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And for now, we'll say bye-bye and we'll see you next week with more amazing interviews.